Hello, my name is Rachel, and I'm doing a presentation for Produce Primary Research, and this is for Delaware Technical Community College English. My topic is that everyday produce that you and I go to the grocery store to get is infested with pesticides, herbicides, and other harmful substances. Not only that, produce is overpriced and it is not local or fresh. Now, how can we solve this problem? I propose the idea that local people start growing their own produce, schools start growing produce, communities, and trying to move away from the idea of only buying produce from grocery stores. And I also want to inform locals of the chemicals in grocery produce. So for this, I originally was going to interview 30 people for my survey questions. I set out a little bit extras and I ended up getting 4 extra. So overall, I have 34 local people. This is a picture of one of the surveys I did. I handed out surveys to people at work, and I also did an online survey for Google, and I combined the two, put my handwritten surveys in Google to create charts. So overall, these are the questions I asked. And here's my results. So this is my first question I asked. I said, how often do you purchase produce from the grocery store? This was actually my question with the largest array of results. Yeah, I mean, it goes from once a week, twice a week, once a month, all that good stuff. And then there was the outlier that says they never go to the store because their spouse does all the grocery shopping. And second question I have you ever been concerned of the chemicals on said produce that they're getting at the grocery store? And 88.2% of people said yes. And then the small portion of people that said no were actually the people that do have a garden or they only buy organic. So no, they're not as concerned of the chemicals on produce that they're buying. Third question, do you think there were any long-term effects of these chemicals? And most of the people said yes, and I believe the 1 or 2 people that said no was because they grow their own produce, so no, they're not worried of chemicals that they're ingesting. And most people I interviewed do not have a garden, and then there's 26.5% that do. And most people said no, they are not opposed to having a garden. And the 8.8% of people that said they are opposed to having a garden, it goes into later as to right now. This is why they are opposed to having a garden. It doesn't show all of the 34 responses, but the people that are opposed to having a garden say there's time constraints, they don't have any luck with gardens, or they're not physically able to maintain the upkeep of a garden. But some of the people that do like the garden say they appreciate the organic produce, they like to watch their vegetables grow, it's fresher, that type of thing. And most people that I interviewed do have space at home for a garden, and then the small portion here that said they do not have space, I believe they said they lived in an apartment or a smaller community where they do not have space for a garden. So that is why I proposed in the beginning that those who cannot grow their own garden, that the community that they live in, maybe they could come together and form their own garden together. If you were able to have a garden, what would you want to grow? Overall, most people said they would want to grow a combination of fruits, vegetables, as well as herbs. And questions or concerns with having a garden. Some people had no questions or concerns, and then other people available space, crop rotation, watering, how to maintain, upkeep, soil, and temperature. Those were some of the concerns of my participants. And for those that live in a community, most of them would not be opposed to getting produce from their community if that's what they were getting their produce from. And this one person said they would get their produce from this community if it was organic. And this other person said as long as everyone contributes, then they would get their produce from the community if they lived in one. And almost everyone said they do believe they're overpaying for produce at the store. And again, the outliers here were those who do not get most of their produce from the store. These were the people that grow a lot of their own produce, or they go to farmers markets, I believe one of them said. And most of those participants said they do not believe the produce they're getting at the grocery stores is fresh. And the people that said maybe, they were unsure, they don't really know. They're assuming it isn't, but it's always advertised as being fresh, so there is some confusion with what marketing says versus what actually is happening. And then the people that said they do believe it is fresh, I think that again was the person who grows her own vegetables. And most people said that yes, they are willing to spend a little extra money on starting up their garden as long as it means saving money in the long run and it's healthier. And 67.6 people said yes, they would be able to maintain a garden. The people that said no, they said they were too busy, they're not going to be able to maintain a garden, or they're physically unable to maintain a garden, or they live in a community, but then that community garden would be an option here. And then some people said maybe they weren't sure if they were going to have luck or not. If you currently have a garden, would you recommend it to others? 75% said yes, and 25%, I believe those were people that don't actually have a garden, so no, they didn't recommend it to anyone. There was some confusion there, but yes, most people that do have a garden, they said they would recommend it to other people. From my conclusion that I gathered from my results, I would say most participants would like to start their own garden if they haven't already, and if they have room to do so. Most participants are concerned with the harmful substances in store-bought produce and don't believe it's fresh. And those who were not concerned with chemicals they're ingesting, it's because they either shop at a local farmer's market or they grow their own produce. Those who don't want to garden don't have time, they don't want to deal with upkeep, they don't have space, or they're not physically capable of going outside and maintaining a garden. And overall, when I went around to all of my participants, just talking to them, getting the idea out here that yes, fresher produce is attainable. It can be grown. You can go to a local farmer's market. That's an option. Community gardens are an option. Just getting the idea out here to all these people, they started trying to think of ways to change their lifestyle. All of these people agreed that yes, they have been relying too much on store-bought goods, store-bought produce, and I truly believe most of my participants want to start a new way of getting their produce other than just grocery stores. Or at least starting to shop organic. And that concludes my PowerPoint presentation. These are my sources of all the different pictures I used, and that's it. Thank you.